Okay, today we're going to talk about implied consent.
What exactly is implied consent?
Implied consent deals with your driving rights and privileges as well as your driving record, and that's something that comes into action after you've been charged with a DWI or after you've had your license revoked for a DWI.
And how does it differ from a DWI?
Well, a DWI is your criminal case, so it's the state versus you. And when people think of a DWI, they think about the jail time that they might face or probation and court fines and things like that. The implied consent case is something they don't really tell you about, but that's your driving privileges and your driving record. If you think about it, it's unfair that the police can revoke your driving privileges before you've even been found guilty of a DWI, but Minnesota law says if your test result comes back over the limit, even though you haven't been found guilty or even go to court yet, they can revoke your driving privileges and put that DWI on your driving record. Unless you fight and win that implied consent, you're going to end up with that DWI on your record even if you win your criminal case.
How do I know if this applies to me?
If an officer charged you with a DWI or took a test from you, a blood, breath, or urine test, and that test came back over the limit, then they're going to try to revoke your driving privileges. If they do it right at the police station the same day or night as your DWI, they'll usually give you a form that looks like this. And then you have 30 days from the date on this form to fight your implied consent case. If you took a blood or urine test, they have to wait for the results to come back, so you'll get a letter in the mail eventually from the Department of Public Safety telling you that your driving privileges are going to be revoked, and that form looks like this. So if you got either one of these forms, this implied consent case will apply to you, and if you got the second form that I showed you, you'll get 33 days to challenge that revocation.
How long will I be revoked?
It depends on your case. You're going to start with 90 days as the minimum on any first-time DWI, and it'll go on up from there on up to a couple years depending on a bunch of factors like have you had a prior DWI before, did you test over a .20, did you have a kid in the car with you at the time, have you had other losses of license because of drinking and driving, or did you refuse the blood, breath, or urine test?
What if I got my charge lowered to a careless driving or something like that?
That doesn't matter for the implied consent, and that's the real kicker. A lot of people think if they got their charge lowered from a DWI to a careless that they're not going to have a DWI on their driving record, and that's wrong. A lot of lawyers miss that issue. What really happens is that your implied consent is a completely separate case from your criminal case. You got to fight it on time, and you also have to fight and win it no matter what happens in your criminal case. So even if you win your DWI case because a judge throws it out or you go to trial and a jury finds you not guilty, unless you also fight and win your implied consent case, you're still going to get a DWI on your driving record for the rest of your life, and you're still going to be revoked for driving.
Do I really need to hire a lawyer?
Yeah, if you don't, you're not going to be able to challenge that implied consent proceeding. I mean, the law lets you try to do it on your own, but truly the implied consent procedure is very complex. You have to serve a bunch of people. There are a number of issues that you have to raise in a timely manner, and you have to know how to do these. Only an experienced DWI lawyer has enough experience and expertise in order to guide you through this process and make sure that your rights and your record are being defended.
Can't a public defender just do my implied consent case?
No, they're not allowed to. Public defenders run on a very tight budget, and the Constitution does not provide you with a lawyer in a civil case, which is what the implied consent case is. So you have the right to a court-appointed lawyer if you cannot afford one in your criminal case, which is your DWI case, but for your implied consent case, they're not allowed to handle that for you. So even if they get you out of your DWI in the criminal case, because they're not fighting your implied consent case for you, you're still going to end up with a DWI on your driving record and you're still going to be revoked.
What if I have more questions?
My name is Ryan Pacyga, and you can call me at my office at 612-339-5844 or go to my website at www.arrestedminnesota.com. That's www.arrestedmn.com.